Einbecker Mai Ur Bock.
And remember, life is too short to be drinking shitty beer.
Welcome to another edition of Bands, Bikes and Booze Reviews. I have just got hold of a load of German beer from a good mate of mine. He's done me a right turn, he has. He's got me two big crates full of beer. And among that lot was quite a lot of Maibock. So the next few beer reviews that you're going to see is going to be Maibock. Now, Maibock, of course, is a seasonal beer. It is currently April. I think today is April the 21st, sorry. So this is just in time for the Maibock season. Now, what is Maibock, you may ask? Well, I'm sure you're all familiar with the style of beer called Bock. It's basically a lager, and you have Doppelbocks, Icebocks, Maibocks, etc. And Bock is defined by being a full-bodied, high ABV beer which is seasonal. Now, the Eisbock and the Doppelbocks are usually brewed for winter time and the cold weather. Maibock is unique in that it's brewed for the short Bavarian spring, which only lasts a month or so, being the month of May, and then you get into the warmer weather that goes on down there. Now, Maibock is an old style of beer, and there are disputes as to its origins. This lot, Einbeck, are generally regarded as the first ones to brew it, but there are claims that come from the Hofbrau who say that they were the first ones. Now, I can sort of half see why they're saying that, because Einbeck, in my opinion, were the originals. They've been going since the 1300s. The date that they put on, or the oldest recorded date that they claim to have been founded, and they're using a beer receipt as their proof of this, is April 1378, which is a fair while ago. It's not as old as me, but it's getting there. And I think from reading between the lines and the history of the brewery, they had a master brewer there who moved to Munich and brought with him his knowledge and I think the House of Wittelbach at the time. I'm going forward 300 years. They claimed that they weren't happy with the beer that was being produced for May, so they took on his knowledge and started brewing what effectively was called Maibock. You can argue the semantics about what the beer style was, but it's generally regarded that Einbeck were the first ones to do it. Einbeck, of course, is a region in Lower Saxony. If you want an indication of where it is, the nearest big city would be Hanover. If you're familiar with Paderborn, that's to the west, and you have a smaller town just up the road from there called Hildesheim. But it's the region of Lower Saxony, put it that way. Maibock, as I say, is a seasonal beer. What are the characteristics of a Maibock? Well, as I mentioned, they're full-bodied, quite a bit of hop character, noble hop character on there, and there's a high ABV as well. The brewing process is interesting. Almost always they use the decoction mashing technique of brewing, which basically means you take part of the mash, you brew it, you boil it separately, and then you add it back to the main mash. It's supposed to give good flavour, and you get the most out of the sugars that are in the malt in there. Now, Bock, as I say, is a seasonal beer. You could argue that Fest beer is a style of Bock. It's basically denoted by an amber colour and the high ABV. And this is no exception. This has all the traits, as you would expect, of a Maibock. But it's an interesting style, and where the Germans do stick rigidly to their seasonal beers, it's only available for certain periods of time. I think I've been quite lucky on this. This is an early one that's come out this year, and my mate Norby has come up trumps and got me this, and I'm glad he has, because in my opinion this is where the style of Maibock originated. They say that as well, and it's generally regarded. It's only Hofbrau who say that it ain't. Interestingly, they've kept the same style of bottle as well. This has been going for years and years, and they've kept that, and it is a characteristic of the beer. Martin Luther, have you heard of him? Not the fella that had the dream, the founder of the Lutheran religion. Of course, he was a German. He was basically the first German Protestant. He tried beer from Einbeck, and he said it was the best drink known to man. So whether he was right or not, I don't know. Beer obviously tasted different back then. I don't think it would have looked like this. I think the popularity of Pilsner malt, or a pale malt I should say, not Pilsner malt, pale malt, would have changed the colour. But if you look at Maibock and Bock beer in general, it normally has an amber hue to it. But there you go, that is a potted history of Maibock. So with that in mind, let's investigate this one. Right, this is a 330ml bottle. It is 6.5%. It is a Maibock, and on the front it says feinwürzig und frisch, which means delicate and fresh. My mate was taking the piss out of my German pronunciation. He's probably going to piss himself laughing at that. I don't give a fuck. Who won that bloody war anyway? But yeah, there you go. There is the bottle. There is the cap. Now, I've not seen this over here. Or have I? I've seen it advertised on Beers of Europe. I've seen it advertised in the House of Trembling Madness, but they never have it. Einbeck obviously do other beers as well, but the Maibock I have not seen advertised, so I don't know how easy it is to get over here. If you can, though, it's worth checking out, even before I've tried it. I wanted to try this anyway, because this is the originator. This is the original Maibock. So, let's get it open and see how good or bad it is. Okey dokey. Green bottles. A bit of an alarm, but there you go. There's the cap. I think they put it in a green bottle, not because it's an export beer, but because it has the hop character to it, which again is a trait of a Maibock. I'm using one of these glasses. My mate Normie got me one of these glasses as well. This comes from the Ratsherrn craft brewers from Hamburg. Never tried any of their beer. I think I may have one down there actually. They do a Pilsner, which looks quite interesting. But can you see what I mean by the amber colour? I mean, you probably only see that pure amber like that from Czech Pilsners, but Maibock does have that colour in there. You see it's like a copper more than an amber. A little bit skunky, I have to say, unfortunately, but I can get them herbal notes immediately. The noble hop, pepperiness and herbal notes come through. And that's a big, as I say, that's a big thing with the Maibock style. They do tend to throw loads of noble hops in there, and you can really smell that on there. But there is a definite bit of skunkiness on there. And if I sniff it out of the bottle, which I don't normally do, but I can get some ethanol on there as well. But it smells, apart from the little hint of skunkiness, there are some nice aromas that are trying to make their way out of it. The skunkiness isn't too bad on this because it was sort of half covered up. But there it is in the glass. 6.5%. I don't think that is going to last too long. So I better shut up gassing and get this down my Gregory Peck. Now, my mate was taking the piss out of me for saying zum Wohl, so I'm going to say Prost. That's probably fucking wrong as well. I don't give a fuck. Cheers. Oh, it's lovely. Oh, that is beautiful. Strong ethanol on there, I will say that. For a 6.5% beer, well, I say strong, I can definitely get that in there. But it's nice. You really can get them nice Pilsner malts. I think there's a Munich malt in there as well. But the dominating thing on this is, on the palate certainly, is the noble hops. Lovely herbal and peppery flavours. Very full-bodied as well. No wheat in there either. So it is possible to get full-bodied beer without bunging a load of wheat in there. But this is really nice, and that decoction mashing that they use on that really does have an effect on the big flavours that you get from Maibock. This, I have to say, is outstanding. It's a really nice one. Oh, there's a, in the mouth there is a hot bitterness running all the way through it, which is quite big. So you can tell that decoction mashing, where they've boiled part of the mash and then thrown it back in again, it just brings out all the flavours. Certainly the malt flavours in this, you definitely can get them on the finish, but there's some nice bitterness on there too. Now, if you like your Pilsners, you may like this because there is some bitterness to it, but the finish is just pure malt, and it is lovely. It's really nice. It's that liquid bread type finish on there, and it's good. Oh, it's lovely. That is really good. And from memory, despite the skunkiness, or the initial skunkiness on that, which was slight, I have to say, it wasn't big, but it was there. I did detect it. It really hasn't influenced the flavour that much. So obviously it hasn't been in the light too much. I had it in my boot, and then I've taken it and put it under some tables in the kitchen. So that's pretty dark in there as well. So it's probably avoided the worst of the light that would make that skunky, but obviously it has a little hint of skunkiness on it. But I have to say, I am absolutely loving this. This is amazing stuff. Lovely bitterness on that as well. Really nice, but then on the finish, you just get all the malt. That's lovely. That, I have to say, that is probably one of the best Maibocks I have tried so far. Now, as I say, I've got a few in the fridge. I'm going to use this as a marker, because in my opinion that is one of the best I've tried so far. And believe me, I've tried a few Maibocks in the past. I've tried the Einbecker Mai Ur Bock, which was really nice, but I don't think it stood out as much as this did. And yeah, I have to say, that is a fantastic beer. So, what is the verdict on Einbecker Mai Ur Bock? That is a fantastic Maibock, and I would go so far as to say it's the best one I've tried so far, despite the initial slight skunkiness on it, which you sort of got to expect with the green bottle. They don't make a habit of using green bottles. I think this one, and possibly another one as well, they do in green bottles. Everything else is done in brown bottles. But it's lovely. It doesn't say what the hops are in this, but you can really taste there is some kind of noble hop in there. You can really get the flavours. Big herbal, quite bitter as well. You can tell that they've been thrown in quite early, and the bitterness is coming through. Very nice though. I mean, it's not an unpleasant bitterness. And then of course the finish is just that pure liquid bread from the pale malt, Pilsner malt, Munich malt, whatever they've put in there. There is no brew sheet, unfortunately, so I am guessing slightly. There's a hint of ethanol in there as well, but it just goes to make the perfect combination. That for me I know I'm going to say it for the 1000th time, but that is one of the, well, I think it is the best one I've tried so far. Lovely. Absolutely gorgeous. So what am I going to give that? Well, it does deserve a 10, but I'm going to give it 9.5 for the little bit of skunkiness on there. Now, obviously, they've put it in a green bottle, and green bottles, as you know, are one of my bugbears, as are clear bottles as well. Beer, unless you store it right, is always going to have a little bit of skunkiness on it, and that did have it. I certainly got a whiff of it when I opened up the bottle, but it hasn't really affected the flavour. Compared to the Budvar that I tried the other day, Jesus Christ, I never thought I'd say it, but it really was unpleasant. I threw half it down the sink. It was that bad. It was that badly skunked. But I'm not surprised. They leave it in the fridge over in the, I call it Skunk Central, not because everyone who goes in there is carrying skunk, which they are. You can smell it a mile off them. I call it Skunk Central because of the way the beer is stored. I mean, all the green bottles, you can just see them up on the top of the fridge, and the light is just beaming down on them constantly. And of course, when you open it, I remember I stupidly bought a bottle of Peroni there once. I mean, you can see it on the channel. If you look at my Peroni review, I opened that and the whole room stunk of it. And the other night, the missus walked in and smelt that bottle of Budvar, and it was not good. But this is very fucking good. It's a shame they don't do it in a can, because that would be superb. Excuse me, it would be superb. But it's fantastic. This is going to be this. I know I'm giving it a 9.5 because of the green bottle and the little bit of skunkiness. But for me, that is the best Maibock I've tried. It really is that good. It would have got a 10 if it hadn't have had that little whiff of skunkiness on it, because it is a superb beer. Try it, and then try other Maibocks and see if you can get a better one, because in my opinion, this is the best Maibock I have tried so far. And remember, beer is working class champagne.